Hey, everybody, welcome into another episode of the Personal Privilege Podcast. I'm Chris Sanchez, joined as always by my partners at Salient Strategies, Dustin Cox and Andrew Cates. And joining us today, you know him as the state representative from House District 93 from Fort Worth, Texas. It's Representative Matt Krause. Representative, good morning. How you doing today?
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me on. I'm delighted to be here.
So as I mentioned in your intro there, you're from Fort Worth, but you represent a portion of Arlington, specifically the home of the five-time Super Bowl champion Dallas Cowboys. So we're going to do a little sports talk radio this morning, if that's all right. Is this the year that the Cowboys finally make a sustained playoff run?
I am a Cowboys fan. I have been since I was a little boy, and every year I go into the season feeling like we're going to win the Super Bowl. So I think I'm the typical Cowboys fan. So yes, I do think this is the year. They've got pieces everywhere. They brought everybody back that they needed to. Losing Gerald McCoy a couple weeks ago was a hit to the defensive line, but I think they've got pieces on both sides of the ball that I think they can make that run this year. Dak's another season, little more season. Zeke will come in full this time, not having set out any camp. So I expect CeeDee Lamb looks incredible, the new wide receiver from Oklahoma. So I really think they have all the weapons and tools to make a deep run. And again, as a Cowboys fan, that's what I'm expecting.
Do you think that a weird season is going to have anything to do with it?
I do. The NFL is always about attrition anyway. I mean, who can keep their players the healthiest, the longest, and add COVID and the pandemic into it? It is going to be weird. You might have some bad breaks along the way, get unlucky in some ways, but I think the Cowboys, again, I just think they're stacked at every position. And so even if they do hit a bump or two, they'll have somebody who can come in and fill in. And I think that's what's going to help them this year. So
you mentioned you're a Cowboys fan kind of for life. Who are your top three all-time favorite Cowboys?
Oh, man. Pretty much, I was 10, 11, 12, 13 when they had those incredible runs in the early 90s. And so I'd always go back to those guys. Emmitt Smith was my favorite player of all time. I love Bill Bates, guy from Tennessee, special teams guy. He was a glue guy. My dad was always like, watch that guy. Loved him. And then, I always loved Daryl Johnston. And again, my dad was like, he is the guy who kind of makes this whole offense run. He was in the trenches. He's always doing something that wasn't flashy, didn't get a lot of stats for. But without him, Emmett doesn't have those holes. Aikman doesn't have that protection. And so I love those guys. But Emmett was always my number one guy. I loved him. But all those Cowboys teams, that you could just go down the line on offense and defense. I knew their offensive line. I mean, you had guys like Ken Norton on defense, who was just incredible. You had Tony Tolbert. Chad Hennings has become a friend of mine, and I have a ton of respect for that guy. He's a man's man, played in the Super Bowl and flew fighter missions in the Middle East. I don't know anybody else who can say that. So just an incredible amount of teams, but those are three of the guys that I really, really enjoyed watching.
Have you been up to the new training facility in Frisco?
Yes.
How is it?
It's unbelievable. First class all the way around. If you haven't had a chance to get out there, you should. I mean, everything's just done. Again, the Cowboys with them, it's just done with excellence. Just like AT&T Stadium was when it was groundbreaking. Frisco, the star out there is just unbelievable. So if you haven't been out there, I'd encourage you to go. It's a great place to watch a practice, great place to tour. And Frisco in general is just blowing up. So it's kind of a neat area to see.
So, Representative, what does having the home of America's team mean for your district?
Oh, it's unbelievable, really. And AT&T Stadium, everybody thinks, well, what's the big deal about 8 games a year? I tell people it's so much more than 8 games a year. You've had the American Country Music Awards there. You've had WrestleMania there. You've had pretty much every artist that many concerts win the last decade come through AT&T Stadium. You've had monster truck rallies. I mean, it is used for so much more than just football. And so just from an economic perspective, it generates hundreds of millions of dollars every year, pre-COVID, obviously, just for people coming in for all those different activities. And so, again, for me, it's a dream come true being a Cowboys fan my entire life to be able to represent AT&T Stadium. But just everything else that it does and all the economic engine that it brings in is just it's hard to quantify.
The agreement between the Cowboys and the Rangers to set up that kind of pavilion in between with the entertainment sector in between the stadiums was one of the smartest things I've seen in a while. It's just so smart.
Brilliant to leverage each other and to figure out a way to bring even more people to that area. If you haven't been to Texas Live right there, you've got to get out there. It's incredible. You go into Texas Live, there's a place to eat and drink. You've got massive TVs. And so even when there's college football weekends, which there's a lot of major college football games at AT&T Stadium, you've got fans from both sides coming and packing that place out, even if they don't go to the game. You've got Rangers fans who can't get into the stadium but want to come and be a part of the experience. Cowboys the same way. So you're exactly right, Andy. The putting those together was a brilliant move, and they've just done it really well. Texas Live is first class. AT&T Stadium and the new Globe Life Field is incredible as well. If you haven't seen it, unfortunately, we haven't been able to go to a game yet, but we've seen it on TV, and they did an amazing job with it.
Well, that's a great little segue into our next area then. Have you actually had a chance to look at the new Ranger Stadium, or is that something you have yet to do yet?
No, I took a tour, I guess it was late February, right before everything hit. And we were getting so excited for that first game. We were getting so excited to be there, but I went on a tour through the stadium, and it's just incredible. All the little touches are just first class. They've got some suites down on the field level, pretty much, which you don't have in any other major league stadium. That people who are in those seats are just going to have about the best view anybody's had. And so they've done a lot of good things, and I'm excited once we can get into the park to go see a live game. But yeah, you've got to get up here. They did an amazing job with it.
Yeah, and then coming into this last month of the MLB season, or this hybrid season, I thought the Rangers were going to be sellers at the deadline this past week. And in fact, they held back on Gallo and Lance Lynn. And so, it makes you kind of think that they feel that they've got, enough muster to kind of pull it out and kind of push forward for this last 30 games or so.
That's it. I mean, in a 60-game season, if you can just get on a 8-9 game win streak, I mean, you are right back in this thing. And so you're right. And there's actually been talk, Major League Baseball, of hosting the World Series at Globe Life Field this year, kind of taking that bubble mentality that the NBA's used and just putting everybody in one place. And it'd be pretty awesome if HD93 hosted the World Series this year. I'd love for the Rangers to be in that. But even if they're not, it'd be great to have those games come here.
That's right. So you mentioned the old stadium. Do you have any particular memories of the old stadium?
Yeah, well, the old stadium, I was at the game where Nolan Ryan punched out Robin Ventura, which was pretty awesome. We were sitting up high on the third deck, and it was kind of like a car accident. It was like slow motion. Like, what are you doing? Even then you knew, and that was before you knew Nolan was going to just crush him. So that was my favorite from the old stadium. In the newer old stadium, I did get to throw out a first pitch. In fact, my first call after I won the primary in 2012 was to Nolan Ryan, because he was the president of the team at the time. And I said, "Hey, I'm your new state rep. Can I come by and meet with you?" And he's like, "Sure, come on by." Like, this is the greatest job in the world. And so I love meeting him and getting to talk with him just about things that they needed at the ballpark. But then throwing out the first pitch was kind of a dream come true. It was just awesome. It was kind of surreal to be out there right before the game, getting to throw that pitch. Made it across the plate in the strike zone from the rubber, which I was pretty excited about. But that was probably my best memory from there. I did get to go to Game 5 of 2010 and 11 World Series, which never thought you'd get to go to a home game at a World Series in Arlington. So that was pretty cool, but throwing out that first pitch was definitely the icing on the cake.
So Representative, you've been at the Capitol since, I believe, 2013. So you're kind of at the point now where you're kind of the old person around the Capitol, no offense. What was your kind of welcome to the legislature moment when you were in your first term?
No, you're right. It's weird. You run against the man, and now you are the man. You are the establishment in some ways. But and I'm number one in seniority in my class, and I think I'm up to about in the 50s or so now, maybe even the 40s. So it shows how much turnover there is. Just in 4 sessions, over half, almost 2/3 of the legislature is new, just in those 8 years, which is kind of hard to believe. But I'll never forget my freshman session. I had a amendment to the PUC sunset bill. And I talked to Byron Cook, who was carrying that as the author of the bill. And I said, "Hey, I've got this amendment. We worked it out." He said, "Okay, I'll accept it." And so I get up there to lay out the amendment. And I started getting some pushback from some other members. And so all of a sudden, the chairman was like, "I'm not sure. I may just need to leave this up to the will of the House." So I went from having my amendment accepted by the author to having it left up to the will of the House. Had a few more people talk against the amendment. And then when we voted, he voted against the amendment. So I was like, okay, I went from having an amendment accepted by the author to having the amendment rejected by the author in the span of like 10 minutes. And it was just like, hey, welcome. You got to know your stuff. You got to be there. You got to know the mood of the House. You can't just rely on the author accepting it. You got to make sure you work that amendment with other members. I thought, if the author's fine with it, we're good to go. There's no problem with it. I learned real quick. The author has a lot of sway over the amendments and the bills, but not ultimate. I mean, that body you still have to get 76 votes total. So that was a good wake up call to me. Like, okay, I got to put some work in to get these things done. You can't just have one conversation and think you're good.
So Representative, finally to wrap it up, I believe you have 5 kids. Is that correct?
That's right.
How have the past couple months been? How are you holding up?
It's been good. My wife is a superwoman, so that's what helps out a lot. And even doing this, I mean, me being gone for 5 months every other year, she's basically a single parent. And my kids, you never get over having your kids standing in the garage saying, "Daddy, please don't leave me again." You know, it's just heartbreaking. But the last 5 months, have been a little tough. I think people forget how much of a toll this can take on kids. I think we think they're resilient. You know, adults have their jobs, have this livelihoods affected, but it's tough for kids. I mean, we just started baseball practice with my son last night from March. So he was so excited about his baseball season. It just got shut down. My daughter's soccer season got shut down. Our church activities, our kids no longer saw their friends as much as they had been before. So I think it's a good reminder for all of us to remember to make sure we're making sure the kids are doing okay and adjusting okay during these tough times. But our kids are doing great. They've been safe. They've been healthy. They've enjoyed that I've been home a lot more. You know, not too many meet and greets, not too many fundraisers, not too many committee hearings out in Austin or other places. And so in some ways, they've enjoyed having me home a lot more, and it's been a blessing. So we've had a lot of good family time, and the kids are doing great.
Well, Representative, thanks for joining us today. We really do appreciate it. Thanks for taking part in our little conversation here. I could have talked sports all day, particularly the Cowboys. I'm a huge Cowboys fan as well. So we'll have you on again.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Whether either 6-6 or 10-3, it doesn't matter. We're always optimistic that we're right there. And in the NFC East, you can be 6-6 and still think you've got a chance to win this thing. So, yeah. So no, thank you guys. I love the format. Good luck with the rest of it. But thanks for having me on. This was great.